Welcome back, America. Just 24 hours ago, we saw every House Democrat present in the chamber, as well as 8 Republican members, vote to oust House Speaker Kevin McCarthy from his post. The first time that this has ever been done in our nation's history. And while every member has their own reasons for the way that they voted, one of the last straws was undoubtedly the passage of the CR to keep the government open this past Saturday. Freshman Congressman Eli Crane of Arizona was one of those 8 to vote against McCarthy, and he joins us exclusively to talk about it now. Congressman, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's great to have you. And, I think yesterday was a little freaky for some people simply because in the historical context of things that had never happened again, but we all went to bed, we woke up. There's a new zest for life. We need a plan going forward. You look like a man with a plan. With respect to filling that position again, the next person to become Speaker of the House, I'm not going to pin you down on a name, but what are some of those qualities that you're going to be looking for?
Well, no, thank you, guys. I think the first quality would be integrity. Somebody who gives his word, makes deals, and actually keeps them. I think that was ultimately what got Kevin ousted, was that he made it, as I think we've talked about on this show before, he made a deal with conservatives back in January after the speaker fight, the 14, who decided to make a deal with him. And then he didn't hold to that deal. And part of that deal was that we would do the 12 appropriations bills, and we would do them to a certain level. And as it got closer and closer to time running out on how much money the government had left in September 30th, last week, it was becoming more and more apparent that it once again wasn't going to happen. And the American people are tired of it. I know the people in my district are tired of it. Guys, the only reason that the American people in Arizona's 2nd Congressional District sent a guy like me up here, a blue collar guy, enlisted Navy guy, who has a bunch of tattoos and half the time on the campaign trail wore a ball cap, is because they thought, you know what, this guy actually might do what he says he's going to do. He might actually fight for us. He might actually try and change that town. And so, guys, I take no pleasure in, ousting Kevin McCarthy. That's just the humanity in me. When I owned my own company, I never liked firing anybody. But the fact of the matter is, this country is in massive trouble, and a lot of it stems from the corruption, the swampiness, and the status quo in this town. And everybody knows it. And the only way that's ever going to change, guys, is if people come up here and they're willing to take the hard vote and they're willing to stand against, the status quo. And that's what we did yesterday. As hard as it was, it's what needed to happen. And so when we go into next week and we start, debating who's going to be the next speaker, integrity is going to be one. Number 2 is going to be somebody that understands the direness and the situation that this country is in and how we must change course. That's going to be number 2. And guys, I realize we don't have a very conservative conference. I totally understand that. I know we're not going to get some super conservative, but we definitely need to start over because, once you start making deals with the group that I run with, and then you completely back out on those deals and stab us in the back, it's not going to go. That's not going to go very well. And so whoever is the next speaker, I know it's going to be fresh on their brain. What happened to the last one? And, I really want to see leadership that honors their word and, understands the situation that the country's in and is willing to make change. Because if we don't, guys, where do you think this whole thing ends? It's not going to be good when you got 33 trillion in debt, 2 trillion national deficit every single year. And that's if we keep spending money the way that we're spending money. So we can't stay on this course. And I think many of us felt like, okay, it's just time to rip the Band-Aid off and get on with it.
Yeah. You have been clear from the start. And I laugh sometimes when I hear some of the Republicans on the other side say, I don't understand what these 8 guys want. You have been evidently clear. And when you came on my podcast, it was the most clear conversation I've ever had with a member of Congress. You want to do the 12 bills. You'd like to see some spending cuts in that $100 to $120 billion range, regular order back, and fix the border, right? Those are the top things for you. And then I guess maybe Ukraine cut out as its own separate vote, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, those are definitely at the top of the list, John. And thanks for having Thanks for having a radical on your show. I really don't think the things that we're asking for are so radical. I mean, when you look at what the Freedom Caucus was fighting for, it was really $115 billion in cuts. It was taking the deficit from 2.2 trillion to 2.1 trillion. So we're still spending $2.1 trillion a year more than we make. I don't think that's super radical, but that just shows you how out of control this town really is.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
Congressman, I wanted to ask you about the immediate steps forward, because obviously you have a Speaker pro tempore, McHenry, serving in that position, but that's not permanent. So what does the timeline look like? I do believe that he has sent everyone home. What does the timeline look like when everybody gets back? And should everybody have just stayed to begin with to get this done?
Well, I think everybody should stay. I know that leadership did not expect to see did not expect that. So they're probably, trying to work through this. I can understand that. And so the timeline from my understanding is we'll come back next week and you'll have a candidate for them on Tuesday, and then we'll vote for a new speaker on Wednesday. And so I look forward to participating in that. And once again, trying to represent the folks that have sent me here.
Yeah, it's so important. It gets forgotten by a lot of people who stay in this time a long time. They forget who they represent. You clearly haven't. You're definitely connected there. I want to ask a little bit about the Biden scandal, because it gets a little bigger every day. We get a little bit more realization how much we've been lied to in the past. Top of the show, we made a new document available to everyone to see. It is a chain of emails from February 2021. Joe Biden's barely in office. He's still getting the curtains installed at the White House, and already his Justice Department's asking the Delaware U.S. Attorney and the agents for a briefing on the Hunter Biden case. This after Merrick Garland told us, I never stuck a dirty finger in that drink. We left him alone. If in the first 2 weeks that was one of their highest priorities to get a briefing on it, have they been telling the American people the truth about this story?
What's that?
Have they been telling the American people the truth when you see evidence like this compared to their narrative?
No, I don't think so. And this goes back to, what I'm talking about. For us, the American people, and especially the people I represent, they're so tired of Republicans not fighting. They're so tired of, this two-tier justice system. And it's going to take members of Congress that are willing to actually fight, ask the hard questions. And, this is something that my voters are, very concerned about. They can't believe the fact that they're seeing all this scandal, with the president, his son, all their shell companies. And I appreciate all the investigative work you guys are doing on this, John. But it's just one more reason that we need strong, honest, transparent leadership in the House, because we have some very tough issues to tackle.
Yeah, that you do.
Well, since we're talking about the Bidens, I wanted to ask you about these investigations that, as a result of yesterday, they are on ice just temporarily. But obviously the investigations on oversight and judiciary and ways and means. As the chairmen of those committees, they have worked hard, nose to the grindstone, have found out a lot, revealed it to the American people. But they have to have a substantial level of support from their speaker. That is a role that's very important, to have that support behind them. For the next person who is Speaker of the House, are we going to have to take one of the chairs of one of those committees, like maybe on judiciary, move that person to the speakership and then replace that spot?
I really don't know what's going to happen. I think there's a bunch of possibilities out there. Honestly, I don't think that at least those of us, the 8 of us that stood up and participated in yesterday's event with the speaker, I think that if we actually threw a name out there on who we want to be speaker, I think it would be counterproductive, just because the emotions are high up here. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I am hopeful that we get a more conservative America First speaker to lead us through these tough times.
Very important.
And that's where the political winds are shifting. So someone who is America First, I think, is going to do a great job in that role. Congressman, we appreciate and respect the hard decisions that you had to make yesterday. As a former Navy SEAL, though, I feel like hard decisions are right in your wheelhouse. So we appreciate you being here. We look forward to having you back on again very soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.